The Standing Committee on Public Accounts has reported on its findings following a two-day visit to the Medupi and Kusile power stations. The power stations have been running over budget and deadlines. So joining me now to discuss this is Avio Mtila. Avio, a very interesting finding was the help that, especially when it comes to the incomplete Kusile as well as Medupi power stations, the issue around selling some of the similar assets, right, as the power utility tries to get some kind of financing, especially since it has been proposed by Finance Minister Tito Mboweni. It appears as though it's been rejected, this whole proposal by the Finance Minister Tito Mboweni around selling some of those assets.
Well, certainly, Faith, you would understand that in the Treasury report that we saw late Tuesday, there was suggestion there of selling Eskom's power stations, well, coal-powered, fired power stations, in order to amass money of about 450 billion rand. That's about in totality of Eskom's debt. But Scopa, you understand that in their two-day visit, it concluded today with them meeting with the executive board of Eskom, and they suggest there that the board itself is not in agreement with that selling of those coal-fired power stations, but they do also suggest that that is not a matter for Scopa. It's something that the board will actually have to deal with the shareholder, which is in this case, of course, is a government, and they'd have to come to some sort of agreement, basically.
I mean, what kind of agreement are we speaking about here? If they say no to selling off Kusile as well as Medupi, have they got alternative measures in order to recover some of the lost amounts, especially given the fact that this project has been delayed for years now?
Well, I just want to make us understand that at this point, Scopa was actually doing site visits to the two power stations, Medupi and Kusile. For them, it's not in their perimeters to actually go into detail in Eskom affairs, but they were just looking basically as a public account office in Parliament. They were just looking at some of the faults. They were in a fact-finding mission. So for them, how to amass that debt that Eskom currently has was not part of their itinerary. And in fact, Eskom spoke to the spokesperson, the acting spokesperson, saying that at this stage Eskom will not be commenting today because it's not part of their plans to be part of that Scopa briefing.
Let's talk a little bit about the findings, especially by Scopa, as they did that visit to both Kusile as well as Medupi. You would appreciate that this has been an ongoing project and millions, billions have been put into this project. To actually see it now, what have been some of the findings?
Well, let's take a look back to this project, and you rightfully mentioned that a number of billions have been put into this project. You remember Medupi, in its inception back in 2007, it was estimated initially that it would cost about 79 billion initially to have it complete and have that power station running. But now that cost has escalated to 146 billion, and it's yet to be complete. Now, we found out there that they'll possibly complete Medupi only next year. And when you look at Kusile, also their projections were at around 81 billion in inception, but now that has also ballooned to 161 billion rand, and it's yet to be complete. We're expecting Kusile, in the briefing that we were told today, to be complete at around 2022 and 2023. But of course, that is yet to be seen because already they've fallen back. I think it's about 5 years that they've fallen back on in terms of when those two power stations had to be complete. And you understand that those power stations have been quite costly to the public and the public purse, the taxman on its own. So their completions are very crucial at this stage.
Well, if the option is not necessarily to sell off, and we're rightfully saying the fact that it's been years and years and years in terms of this project being completed. It's not even complete yet. 2023, that's when we're looking at actual completion. It's cost us hundreds of billions of rands. Is it going to make up in terms of power, where power is concerned? Is it going to make up for the amount of money lost, for the amount of time spent on it, for the amount of workmanship that went into this project?
Well, if you look at the power outages that we've seen this year, Faith, we understand that a lot of them were attributed to these two power stations. We understand that just in this last financial year alone, they've seen over 80 power trips just from these particular two power stations. And in the site visit, the Scopa site visit that they've just came back from, they did tell us that they found the plants that were doomed from the start, but they do actually have faith that things can be turned around. But so I guess we just have to be hopeful and look at the strategies that are placed in front of us and see if indeed they will be able to turn them around.
Sure, it's definitely a wait and see, but unfortunately our wait and see is quite an expensive exercise, especially for taxpayers there. But we're going to leave it there for this afternoon. Avi Mdila giving us the latest in terms of that Scopa visit to the Kusile as well as Medupi power stations. While Michael Komape's family is fighting